Hello everyone, it is Jazz here, and I wore my I Never Argue, I Explain t-shirt, my little Downton Abbey moment, because today I'm going to be ranking every book that I read in 2022. Now, I made this video for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is that I epically failed on reviewing anything in the latter half of the year of 2022. I didn't even do them on Instagram, which was totally my plan, but it didn't actually happen. So I thought to give you guys a little scope of what I read, what I thought of the things that I read in 2022, I would do it. I know this video is coming kind of late in the game, but I want to make it because it's fun. That's my other reason. Now, I only have 26 books to talk about here, but I do like to talk. So this possibly may be a grab a drink, grab a snack kind of video. I have decided that I would name my tiers after Firefly quotes because my channel is called The Shiny Files, and also because it amused me. The top tier, the best of the best, is Shiny. These are the favorites. Then the next three tiers are named after this quote.
Mercy is the mark of a great man. Guess I'm just a good man. Well, I'm alright.
Great is the tier where we put everything that didn't quite make the favorites list, but is still highly recommended, still a reread for me, still pretty awesome, probably nothing's wrong with it, just didn't make the favorite list. Good is for the books that I would recommend and that I thought were pretty nice, they were enjoyable, but they have more than a few things that weren't my favorite thing in the world, and thus they're just good. Well, all right is the meh category. They were readable and fine, but they also had things that bugged me. Lastly, the least best books are Sudden but Inevitable Betrayal.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
I'm going to start with Seth Baumgartner's Love Manifesto. I'm going to put this at the top of the great list. I think that it was a really nice YA contemporary fiction. It's like a good mix of being light and also talking about some serious topics because Seth is exploring the meaning of love through talking about it on his podcast. I do think that some of the elements of this book could have gone a little further near the end, like it could have been a little longer of a book, but it's still a really excellent read. I'm going to put all this time in Well, All Right. I don't think All This Time knew what it wanted to be. I think it has some really good concepts about loss and grief and teenagers exploring that, but the last third of the book had this plot direction, and I don't think it serviced the book very well, and I also think the book was just trying to do too many things. So it needed some tweaking, if you will. We have a good lineup of Stephen King books now. So first we have my reread of The Gunslinger, which is the first book in the, what is the series called? Dark Tower series. Oh my gosh. So I think people are going to come for me. I'm going to just put this at the top of good. Don't hurt me. I've read this book about 3 times in my effort to complete the series because I'm really bad at completing series. And I have to say, on the 3rd time, I realized that as I got further into the series, because I read the next 2 books in this series, that this first book is just not the best of the other books that I have read in this series, but also this first book doesn't really make sense until you've read subsequent books. It's still very good. Next we have The Drawing of the Three, which is the 2nd book in the same series. That one goes right to the shiny spot. That one was awesome. Really loved the new characters. Really loved the addition of the world building. I don't need to say anymore. It was awesome. Wendy's Button Box. I'm going to put this lower than Drawing of the Three in the shiny category, but I think this was a great short novella. Read similar short stories that dealt with a similar concept as like a button box and what the button box is in this story, but I think this one executed it the best. Passable in pink. Oh, you travesty. Obviously, you can tell that I didn't love this. I'm going to put that in sudden but inevitable betrayal. If you want to waste your time with a really badly executed satire that centers around every 80s teen movie, this is the book for you. I think that the concept could have been good, but when an author tells the same joke over and over and over again, it just starts to not be funny anymore. Here we have Gwendy's Magic Feather. Now, I did initially give this a fairly high rating. I think I gave it 4 stars, but the more I thought about it over the year, the more I realized it was maybe like a 3.5 or a 3.75 star. So I think I'm going to put it at the top of well, all right. Honestly, I think Gwendy's Button Box would have been just great as a novella and not moving on with the series. I don't find Gwendy as endearing as an adult, and also it does have more to do with politics, which I understand why that's there, but I don't really like books to do with politics. It's just not my vibe. But really, I think this book is a missed opportunity. I think that the story that was considered the A plot should have been the B plot and vice versa. I think it could have been more of a thrilling book if that had happened, but that's not what happened. We made choices, and sometimes an author's got to choose. The Bluest Eye, I'm going to put this at the top of good. And yet again, probably people are amazed by that. But let me explain, if you will. I do think Toni Morrison's writing is beautiful. I do think the concept of the book is something interesting to be said. But it's also so hard-hitting that I would never reread it again. It's a little soul-crushing. And apparently all her books are like that, which is why I've only completed this one. We have an odd one. This one's called Dancing Through Fire. It's part of a portrait series, which is a series where different authors wrote sort of middle grade books centered around paintings. This is centered around, I believe, a Degas painting, and it's about a ballerina during wartime. So I'm gonna put this in good as well. I'm gonna put it kind of at the end of good for now, because I think this could have been a really, really excellent book if it wasn't a middle grade book that was just sort of meant to introduce you to art and a bit of history. I think if this book could have really delved into like the aspects of what it's like to experience war and what some of the nitty-gritty sort of issues to deal with politics and government and all that stuff, it would have been just a super excellent book. But because the author is trying to write for a younger audience, it can't be what it needs to be. I get what it's trying to do. It's very good. I would recommend it if you just want a short, quick ballet dancer read. And I love all the little ballet elements of this story, but I can't put it higher than where I put it. Ooh, a super fave! The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. I'm putting this right at the top of Shiny. I really love short books that get a full plot in there and also get a full, well-conceived concept through to the reader. And I think that's what this book does. It's a really excellent book. I really related to a lot of things about the main character. I really think that the author did a good job getting across what it's like to be autistic, at least for this particular individual, because obviously it's a spectrum sort of situation. Green Angel Tower. This is the final book, the third book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series by Tad Williams. Now, this is definitely a shiny one. Do I want to put it above or below Drawing of the Three? I think I'm going to put it below Drawing of the Three just because it is an over 1,000-page book. It's excellent. The world building, as usual for Tad Williams, is bomb. I really super am endeared to a lot of the main characters in it, but it is a long journey. It's a long journey. And so thus, maybe I probably like the drawing of the three a little more, but it's still really, really super awesome. And I thought it was a good conclusion to this fabulous fantasy series. So we have The Air Affair. This is the first book in the Thursday Next series. I'm gonna say I'm gonna put this in the great category. Yeah, it's one of the few satire books I really enjoyed. I got all the jokes. The jokes were really, really funny. I really liked the references, not just the Jane Eyre references, but also the Shakespeare references were really fun. The adventure is wacky and kooky and kind of in that zone if you like sort of, what is that, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of vibe. Next is The Inheritance. Unfortunately, I have to put this in Well Alright. I guess we'll put it in the middle of these two books in Well Alright. Louisa May Alcott wrote this as a 17-year-old. This was her very first novella that she completed. So it's like 150 pages of her heroine wistfully crying for no apparent reason. Imagine sort of the really melodramatic stuff that Jo March writes in Little Women, but take out all the fun gothic stuff, and then you got The Inheritance. And honestly, I've watched the film adaptation of The Inheritance, and I like it better. But it is a nice sort of endearing way to see how Louisa May Alcott got her beginnings. And that's kind of cute. I don't want to say too much about Jane because I want to make a video about Jane, but it is a retelling of Jane Eyre. I think I'm going to put it at the end of the Shining list, because I gave it a pretty high rating. It probably might have been higher or lower than some of these, but I feel like I need to give it a reread before I confirm that. Then I read the first book in the Poldark series, Ross Poldark, for the second time. This climbed, because there was a time when it would have just gone in the great category. But upon rereading with more historical context, because I feel like you need a little bit of historical context, particularly on post-Revolutionary War and also on mining. So I'm going to put Ross Poldark, maybe like right there. Also one of my favorite TV shows, so get you some Poldark. The graphic novel adaptation of Anne of Green Gables. I'm gonna put this in right after Gunslinger in good. I've read a lot of graphic novel adaptations of books, and I don't think the Anne of Green Gables one is one of the better ones. I think the art is really excellent. I think that it is a nice general representation of the story. And I do think that as a collector of copies of Anne of Green Gables, it's a nice addition to my collection. Like, I think that it's a must to have if you're a collector of Anne of Green Gables stuff. But it's just not the best adaptation that I've ever read. I think that it could have been just a little better executed to give more of the vibe of the story and maybe get a little more of the character content into it. Sigh. We have Never Ending Story. I hate to do this because it wasn't a horrible book and I did give it 3 stars, but I'm sorry, put it in the top of Sudden but Inevitable Betrayal. Only because I was so disappointed with this book. I've been wanting to read it from grade school. I got a really beautiful copy that had like the different colored writing, just like it's described in the actual story. I was so excited, and it wasn't it. First of all, the movie adaptation was completely correct to stop the story where it stops, which is halfway through the book. Because after that point, you start to wonder if it really is truly a never-ending story, and you're just ready for it to be done at a certain point. It kind of starts to meander. I do understand what the author is trying to do, because the main character is a very different character than is represented in the film, and I get that he had some more growth to do, but I think there's a way to execute that growth without making the character straight up annoying and unlikable when they were already sort of annoying to begin with. You know what I mean? So I was just epically disappointed, and it just kind of felt like it went on and on and on, and it's not that long of a book. I feel betrayed by it because I waited so long and built up so much excitement for a never-ending story, and then it dropped the ball for me. Beauty and the Beast. This is, I don't know if it's the original fairy tale or if it's one of the earlier tellings of the fairy tale. Beauty and the Beast, I think I'll put it at the top of good. It was pretty enjoyable. I do think it kind of goes some interesting whirly-giggy places near the end, but there's a lot about it that I really, really like, and I wish our modern interpretations of Beauty and the Beast would put into their adaptations. I do not know where to put Rose Madder. Should I put it at the end of great or the beginning of good? This is the question. The thing about Rose Madder is that I think it's a really excellent book. I think it's well executed. I think the concepts are really interesting. I really like Rose as a character. I did like the romance that builds in this story, but Rose's abusive husband is really hard to read, and you have to read a lot of his perspective, and it slowed my reading down. I'm like, I don't want to read about him, but he's well developed. Dang it, I don't know what to do. So, you know what? I'm gonna put it at the end of great. I would probably revisit it, you know, even though I struggled with that one element. But it was just that one element. Everything else was pretty excellent. Then we have a little Bible study book here. This is called Daniel, because it's a study of the book of Daniel, God's word for the biblically inept. I'm going to put it in shiny, because I think it's an excellent book if you want to do a Bible study on this. It's a prophecy book, so it explains a lot of elements of the prophecy and all the timelines and all that stuff. And it does it in a really simple, easy to understand kind of way. Next we have Wastelands. This is the third book in the Dark Tower series. Where does this one go? Not good. It's better than good. I'm gonna put Wastelands just below Drawing of the Three. I still think it's really excellent. I really thought all the new stuff that was added was great, but for some reason, even though it's still in the shiny category, I didn't love it quite as much as Drawing of the Three, but it's still chef's kiss. My reread of Rebecca, I think I've read this book at least 4 times, so I think this is about the 4th time. This goes straight up to the top of shiny. Rebecca is one of my favorite gothic kind of stories. Really enjoyed my revisit to it. The Thawing of the Viscount's Heart. This is the 3rd book in the, I believe it's called The Christmas Bells. Basically, it's a series written by a few different authors where they're clean Regency romances, and the couples meet at this frost fair that actually took place in the Regency era, and they have like little meet cutes, and then there's a cute Christmassy story. I am a sucker, apparently, for a slightly emotionally damaged Viscount. And so I'm gonna put this right here in the great category. It had the best characters, I think, and And the plot was really interesting. It actually had like a little action moment near the end. They're very short, fast reads that are just cute and clean and sweet and fun. And you know, these two people really like to hang out in the library, which really suited their romance. I thought it was freaking adorable. Next is a children's book, Little People, Big Ideas, Audrey Hepburn. This is a group of books where people basically write a little biography for children about real people. I will put it maybe right here on the shiny list. I just think it had like the most adorable art style. It really did get like a good gist of Audrey Hepburn's life for little children, and I love Audrey Hepburn. She's like my favorite. So I thought it was just a really fun thing to have in my children's book collection. Next we have two books by Mahiri McFarlane. I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing this author's name. The first one is Don't You Forget About Me. I think it's at the top of good. Now, I didn't mind the fact that this is 100% marketed as a romance, and it's not really a romance. It's more of a personal growth, overcoming some personal trauma kind of book, but it does it in this way where it's humorous situations while this character is overcoming those things. And I appreciate that kind of story. However, I do think that it wanted to end as a romance, and while I appreciated that, I think there needed to be more focus on the romance in this story if that's how it wanted to go. Now, If I Never Met You, which is by that exact same author, I will put maybe right between Thawing the Viscount's Heart and The Air Affair. I think that this book was the perfect rom-com in terms of structural situation. And it's a fake dating story, which is always kind of fun. And I do really like, too, that the couple really gets to know each other and, like, learn about each other before they kind of jump into the romantic elements of their lives. So I really appreciated this. So both of these were excellent audiobooks as well. So if you just want to kind of close your eyes and get that rom-com vibe, I think these were two things that I would recommend. So this is my rating list. The only thing I think that I will change is I do think that I'm going to move Regine in front of Gwendy's button box. I think that's a more accurate portrayal of how I feel. But I think everything else, when I look at it, is exactly where I want it. So that was me tier ranking every book in the 2022 year. If you like this video, please like this video and comment, and also subscribe if you feel like you want to subscribe. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. The next couple of videos are probably going to be vlogs, so keep your eyes out for those. And that is it for today, my fabulous peeps. I will see you all soon. Bye!